what is the price of this?
This is going to go MSRP for $59.95.
What are the abrasives?
There's a 320 grit diamond, a 600 grit diamond, and then a fine ceramic hone.
What is the range of angles you can get with this thing?
Change the angle up here by turning the angle adjust knob, and the angles are written here on these badges from 15 to 30 degrees and whatever increments you want in between them. We have 25 here, and then you come over to the fine side over here, or sorry, 15 here, then it would go 16, 17, 18, 19, back to 20, 21 through 24, and so forth.
15 to 30.
15 to 30.
And then can you get replacement abrasives?
Yes, we will sell the replacement abrasives. Real easy to change. Take your little rubber stopper off the end, slide the whole tri-abrasive off. The triangle comes out, pop the end caps off, and then you just remove the abrasives. They're held on with adhesive. You just remove those, put your new ones back on, and reassemble in the opposite order you took it apart.
We'll dive in a little bit deeper. What does it sharpen? Obviously, it sharpens a lot of types of knives. We had some specific questions. Let's start back up one step. How heavy is the unit, and what does that allow you to do as far as knife size to sharpen?
The unit itself, fully assembled, is about 1.25 pounds. So it's not overly heavy, but it has a good solid weight to it to make it very stable. You can apply weight out here. It wants to come back into position. Obviously, since this is outside of the base here, the more weight you apply out here and the farther it is, eventually you get into really large knives that are, thick, like 3/16 inch, 9-inch knives. They can become tippy, but with this base, it's easy. You just hang on to it, which is my normal way of sharpening anyway.
Yeah, it's comfortable to have a hand on the base.
But you have to have a very large knife that's heavy in order for it to start going.
Gotcha. Someone asked, so how large of a knife, how long of a blade length can it sharpen effectively?
I've sharpened up to a 10-inch chef's knife.
Wow.
So
that's just for scale. This is a 6-inch chef's knife.
When you load it, you'll have you center it so you have 5 inches out either side. It's just the longer the blade is, you adjust your rubber stopper out here. You just start, the longer the blade is, the less abrasive you can actually use just out there on those ends. When you come back in here, you can use much more of it, but just when you get out to the ends is where it...
Gotcha. So you might only use, the outer half or 3/4 of that abrasive to be able to...
out by the tip or the heel.
Gotcha. Exactly. Makes sense. So what is the maximum spine thickness then that you can clamp inside of the clamp here?
To get a good clamp on it, we have a V that's in this outside part of the clamp here that we position the knife back into. So when you open the jaws, we set the spine of the knife all the way back into it. There's obviously going to be limitations there. I've found right about 3/16 of an inch thick.
And that still fits right inside that V block.
Yeah, still fits just inside that little V cut, and then you can still, you still get a good clamp on it, and it holds it very tight. Yeah. I have a 3/16 inch thick, 9-inch long camp knife that I sharpened on it I don't know, last week sometime, and it held it fine. It's a big, heavy knife.
Awesome.
This is a good example of that. It's 1/4 inch thick here, but it's not over here where we would clamp it. So this knife I could still clamp. So you need to measure that thickness where you're going to position your clamp, which should be somewhere at the center of the knife.
Yeah. So let's throw that knife in the clamp and see what it does. That's a big knife.
So if we get it centered, right about there.
Show that camera.
Yeah. And see, it's not going anywhere. We load, and you can see this one starts getting, because you got a lot of handle out here, 1/4 inch thick all the way out with a full tang handle.
That's a big knife. That's a real big knife. This is solid.
Yeah. So once you put your hand on it, it's fine. We adjust that out. We can still reach more than half the abrasive at either end.
All the way around.
Yeah. So you can still completely reach every bit of that blade.
So we had another question about if it sharpens multi-tools, and the short answer is yes. I was playing with this a little bit earlier, but if it's going to hold something like that and the weight of a real heavy knife, then it can easily hold the weight of of a Leatherman or a multi-tool. It is heavy, but it's a lot closer to the clamp than it is on a knife that sticks out, 8 inches past the clamp. I would share one tip with this, and that's that sometimes these multi-tool blades are very short from the spine to the bevel, and so if you back them out of that V block just a little bit, you can still get a really solid purchase on the blade. And that allows you to come in and get a shallower angle, sharpening closer to 20 or 25 degrees, rather than if you clamp all the way in, you're left only being able to sharpen at something really steep like 30 degrees.
At a very high angle.
Yeah, let's show it here. Someone asked if it clamped to a Spyderco or a leaf-shaped blade, and I just wanted to see how you would do that.
Yeah, it's basically, we're going to clamp this the exact same way we do any other knife. We're going to center the clamp on the blade. The challenge is that the top of the knife here slopes down so fast. In order to keep your cutting edge parallel, can we still get a good purchase on it? So if we center that on the clamp, get the cutting edge straight, just pinch that there. So what happens, and it's just like any other knife, we're touching back here in the V, which gives us that extra stability. We're still grabbing all the way across the clamp. There's just a larger gap here. And this, really the size of the gap here does nothing to how we hold the knife.
And you only need
to tell this is still very,
it's
not going anywhere.
So I don't really want to talk about this, but what can't it sharpen? What are the main limitations if you want to sharpen like serrated knives or other specialty tools? What is this not the sharpener for?
In current form, we don't do scissors, and we don't have a serration solution yet.
More to come. I think we also, in the earlier video 2 weeks ago, we talked about sharpening recurves. It does sharpen the inside of more gradual recurves, but if you have something really tight, there's going to be a little bit of challenge, at least in current form.
Yeah, and there could be some challenges just because they're so tight, and we are using a flat abrasive. Like we said, I think it was a Kershaw Blur that we sharpened in the previous video, and it sharpens that fine, but something
like a karambit or something.
Yeah, or a karambit might be a little bit more challenging.
All right, a couple of bonus questions that might get a little bit more in the weeds.
No.
But someone want to know, from your perspective as the designer, what does this have that other sharpeners in its class don't? Why would I buy this over some of the competition?
Well, for me, there's a lot of things. But what we really have here is a sharpener that is easy to use, easy to load. It's a modular system, and it's very repeatable and very accurate. And the repeatability part of it comes from, as we were loading, I'll use the Spyderco again. As we're loading into the clamp, we center the blade this direction across the clamp, and now we go back to the back of that V. So we can come in and sharpen this, and then you take off and go do your chores. You can come back a week or a month or however long it is, and you want to sharpen it again. You come back in and do the exact same thing. You load this, you center it, and you place it back in the V. It puts that knife back into the same spot. So you reset this to the same angle you sharpened before, and you get right back
There's
to...
no guesswork on the depth.
Exactly.
Of the clamp.
Exactly. It takes that depth out of it, so it gets you right back to where you were sharpening at before. The other parts I really like about it is I made the clamp removable. So you're not dealing with the rest of the sharpener while you're loading your knife into it. So it's a one-handed operation. You can loosen the knob, open the jaws. Once you get your knife where you want, there's little logos on both of the jaws. You just pinch those. That holds the knife in place. So it's not one-handed, two-handed, but it's just very easy to load your knife, and then we load it into the base, and the tri-abrasive, if it's in your way while you're doing something, you just pop it out. It's held in by a magnet. And we have all three abrasives on the same rod designed so you don't have to worry about making any adjustments to your tri-abrasive for height. That way you can rotate from your coarse to your fine to your fine ceramic.
Around the same axis there.
All rotates around the same axis, so you have that same height all the time.
Same
and it's
rod.
all in one place. And the ease of angle adjustment. We have everything built into here. You can dial in whatever you want to. go off of what we have here. You can use an inclinometer to find exactly what you want, and it gives you a chance to really fine tune it and do some custom edges if you want to get into more details and micro bevels and stuff that you guys are going to talk about later.
Well, you just mentioned using an inclinometer. So I downloaded a quick app on my phone for free. Somebody asked how accurate the angle setting is. I'm going to set this up real quick. I'll clamp this chef's knife in here. This is probably maybe slightly taller than an EDC that you're going to clamp, but it is maybe more common as far as just in general the size of a knife that may be included. And I'll measure it on the inclinometer that I have on my phone, and we'll see where we're at. But no surprise, it's gonna be right there. Just want to show you guys. Okay, so with this is just that if you want to check it on your phone, or if you have an inclinometer, I just got a free app. This is going to show me that our table's at 90 or close. So if this is 90 degrees, then I want to check this, which is going to be
You're on stay off your little rubber stopper.
There we go. So that's showing 70 degrees. My angle is currently set at 20 degrees, so 90 minus 70 is 20 degrees. That shows it's perfectly accurate with this knife. Again, this may be slightly taller than your EDC, maybe slightly shorter than a larger chef's knife or a Nikiri or whatever you got. So if you do change the blade size, for example, sharpening an EDC knife rather than a kitchen knife, you could expect a variance. You were saying it could be like it's less than a degree usually. Like we said, we picked a knife. Steve picked a knife. I didn't have anything to do with this. Steve picked a knife that was pretty average. Yeah, you might be varying a degree. Again, if the actual degree is that important, get an inclinometer. You can get them on your phone and set it based on that. But if you just want consistent, repeatable results, then using the benchmarks that we've set on the tool will get you the same place every time on the same knife. Someone asked, which is better, the Precision Adjust or the Ken Onion?
Oh, man, those are actually my two favorites right now. It really comes down to, and this is going to sound like a cop-out, it's going to come down to what you want to do. You know, what kind of edge do you want? What are you sharpening? Something like this, for me, this is all about the Ken Onion with the blade grinding attachment. That's exactly
something
where
with
I would take
horsepower.
this. Yeah, something with horsepower, because you are going to be removing a lot of material. It's a larger blade. If you're going to go very thin on the bevel, it's going to be, a lot of work. So I would take this to the Ken Onion. If I'm doing my EDCs, I have fallen in love with this thing. I get such a crisp bevel off of them. They're ridiculously sharp. So it really all depends on what you're doing. I get fantastic results on both of them. So yeah, I don't have a direct answer for you. It all depends on what you want and what you're doing with them. This is going to be a flat grind as opposed to the Ken Onion's going to be a convex grind also. So
I can tell you, I'm quickly falling in love with this as well. Mostly for EDCs though. For the larger blades, I'm going to find that Ken Onion or the blade grinding attachment still is a favorite. There's some pride of the results that you get when you sharpen with this. It's a manual process, and even though it's very guided and controlled, I still have ownership of exactly how I put the angle on the knife or the specific bevel that I cut in. And there's a lot of variety that you can actually choose to do. We'll talk about that in the next video, but yeah, there's just something about the pride, and the knives are scary sharp.
They are, and it puts a beautiful bevel on them. It's just so pristine and clean. It's a lot of fun to use.
On that note, what is what's a tip for getting just exceptional results, or just beyond the user's guide how to use this? What is something that you do on your own personal knives to take it up a level?
Okay, I'll just really quick. I'll just kind of talk through it, and I'll run you through my process. I'll set the angle exactly where I want them. So I've been setting all my EDCs at 20 degrees. Start off with the coarse abrasive if I'm changing the angle or if it's got any real damage to it. And I'll do just the back and forth like we show in our owner's manual. Back and forth until I get a burr. So it might take, I'll do 20 or 30 strokes on a side. I'll flip it over. I'll do 20 or 30 strokes on that side, and I keep going back and forth so I don't lose count of what I've done. Once I've got that burr, I'll move over to the finer grits, and then I start doing less strokes and dropping the pressure. that I applied. So I keep going lighter and lighter and lighter. And for me, the last few strokes that I do on the 600, I actually do one long stroke pushing into the blade. And just nice and soft. Flip it over, we'll do the same thing. Do the same amount of strokes both sides. And then with the ceramic, I do the same thing. All my strokes, I start at the heel, into the tip, pushing into the blade. I'll start out, do say like 10 strokes per side, then I'll do 5 strokes per side, then 3, then 2, then 1. And literally the last ones, it's just basically the weight of the tri-abrasive, just barely gliding over it. And that gets me to the point where I'm push cutting paper, and I have a bald left arm now because of it.
What does that sweeping stroke do that the back and forth motion doesn't?
For me, I believe it gives me a cleaner looking edge. You don't get striation marks traveling 2 different directions. You'll have some this way as you're sawing back and forth. Sure. So I get a nice cleaner bevel, and I like pushing into it because that just helps refine that rather than pulling, sharpening off and pulling metal away from the edge. Sure. You're pushing in to help refine that bevel or that burr.
Yeah, you're not
better.
Sure, you're not in a way creating a micro burr each time. You're pushing away that burr, and any excess metal is actually rolling up the bevel rather than down it.
Yeah, it's being removed, and that's the point of being very light. Because if you're very heavy-handed, you could still raise a burr even with finer abrasives. So you come in very light and you get rid of that burr, and it's just sharp.
All right, everyone wanted to know, are there more abrasives coming?
It's a good question. It's come up a lot. So this is a new platform for us, and we are dedicated to this platform. We believe it's going to be a very good product for us, and we plan on it being around for many, many years. A lot of people have left comments, made phone calls, getting a hold of us wanting to know the same question. So this is our ask of you: is what do you want? What would satisfy you with this? Right now we're starting with 3 abrasives. What else would you desire?
All right. The designer of the Precision Adjust using the Precision Adjust. I'm impressed. All right, thanks, Steve, for joining us. Where's Steve?
Thanks, Josh. I'll take it from here.
What are you doing here?
Well, I'm here to talk about Black Friday. We've got some pretty awesome promotions going on. We've got a bundle that we're doing, and I want to tell the people about it. So, what we've got...
Take it away, Squatch.
All right. So, what we're going to have is... This won't be part of the bundle, but what we do have is the bench stone. You're also going to get the... what am I seeing here? Pivot Plus?
Pivot Pro.
Pivot Pro. We've got... What am I seeing here?
Pivot Plus.
Pivot Plus.
The Micro.
And the Micro. And last but not least, you also get a Flapjacks and Sasquatches Worksharp Edition game as well. So that's available on our website, worksharptools.com. Visit it on Black Friday. Take advantage.